What is going on, you savages? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to more WWE 2K19 coverage. And today we're going to be talking about something that a lot of you guys have been asking me about, and actually something that a lot of us is always wondering in regards to WWE games. So one of the biggest issues about WWE games is that they usually feel like they are outdated, especially when it comes to attires of WWE superstars. There has been even multiple occasions where superstars entrances has been outdated. So we're gonna follow up on that, and I'm gonna share with you guys basically what I know of it, so that you guys can have an idea of what we could be seeing this year when it comes to attire and so on. But before we get into it, make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications if you want to be fully up to date on WWE 2K19. I will be doing other news, the updates, the reveals, and so on. And if I'm invited to early access event this year, I will also of course be bringing you guys some exclusives. So to not miss any of that, turn on those notifications. So to start off, I want to discuss something that I actually discussed before when we were talking some reports in regards to Shinsuke Nakamura receiving, or at least WWE Games working on his new entrance theme, as he is basically one of the current WWE superstars that have gotten sort of like a big update to their entrance. So when I was covering those reports of Nakamura and his potential updated entrance in WWE 2K19, something that came to mind right away was a superstar that has the same type of issue last year, and that was Baron Corvin, who received an updated entrance, stage, titrons, and so on sometime around Summerslam. And by the time that WWE Games came out, Baron Corvin was one of the superstars where a lot of us were actually complaining at the fact that he was outdated. His model was absolutely perfect, but that doesn't necessarily have to do with attires and updated entrances, because it is something completely different. When it comes to scanning, usually that is done during WrestleMania season, and as far as we know, it might happen once after WrestleMania, especially for those DLC guys or those main roster guys that are really important and that come to the WWE later on, such as the Hardy Boys last year, whom returned at WrestleMania on the day off. So WWE Games did have to get scanning for them after WrestleMania season. But in regards to attires and basically everything that I have heard of and over the past years or so, based on what I have observed, this week is a very interesting week because we got Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming up, and when it comes to attires, this pay-per-view is a good one to remember and to take notes of. Now of course, not every superstar that we see in the Money in the Bank is gonna have an updated attire, or I should say a new attire, but in many occasions, for many superstars, the attire that they wear at the Money in the Bank or around this season heading into SummerSlam is the attire that they end up being featured in the current year's game. Now of course, keep in mind that the attires from the Royal Rumble and also WrestleMania also has a big chance of being the default attire of the superstars that make it into this year's game. Obviously, we don't know which attire they pick. Do they pick the attire that Seth Rollins wear on Raw 25th, at the Royal Rumble, at WrestleMania, or the one he's gonna be wearing at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view? We don't know how they make that decision. Do they actually pick the attire that the superstar wears the most every single week? I don't think that is necessarily the case, except when we're talking about t-shirts and so on. If it is a guy like John Cena, for example, who obviously comes back with new merch, then at that point that is just an updated attire. It's not necessarily something like a whole outfit like Seth Rollins or like AJ Styles. But again, based off history and for what I seen on most default attires of WWE Games roster, the month of June, and especially if they debut a certain new attire at the Money in the Bank or Extreme Rules, as those two pay-per-view are very close to each other this year, those attires probably had the biggest chance of making it as the default attires. Last year though, something even more interesting happened, and that was the fact that Finn Balor actually had his SummerSlam attire in the game. And the crazy thing about it is that that screenshot of Finn Balor with that updated attire came out the same time as SummerSlam, around that same week. So it was like WWE Games actually worked with Finn Balor so that he actually wear that attire at the event. So maybe that was the beginning of something that we're gonna be getting this year. Maybe actually they gonna keep it even more updated by instructing superstars to wear a certain type of attire that they want to feature in the game so that the game could feel updated. Imagine if at Hell in a Cell, which is usually the pay-per-view that is around October and when the game comes out, imagine if at that pay-per-view the WWE superstars are only allowed to wear the attire that they have in the game. That will be a way for WWE Game to kind of control the release of the game and more specifically control that the game is not outdated. Besides that, and the reports of Nakamura potentially indeed getting the new entrance and possibly new motion capture being done for that, I covered before how certain superstars such as Charlotte and AJ Styles were just some of the superstars that were getting rescanned this year so that they could be as much updated as they can in the game. There's also reports of Naomi and Sasha Banks getting rescanned, so expect them to be probably one of the most updated superstars in this year's game. Nonetheless, you savages, that is the latest coverage that I got for you on this video. As always, if you enjoy or found this informative, make sure to elbow drop a like on this video. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications to be fully up to date on all things WWE and WWE 2K19. We in the road to 100,000 subscribers. Macho T, dig it.